everybody's Dave here from Vikings First and SKOL. We're live at the 2-minute warning. Well, not quite the 2-minute warning. I'm still showing 3:17, 3:15 left. And Kirk Cousins drops back, throws a completion to number 7. Well, stuff happens. Doesn't matter. The Vikings are up at this point 42-21. That's right. 42-21. Hey, I want to welcome Duncan, SKOL, and Aloha, buddy. Peter, SKOL. Dave L, best run defense. Yeah, it didn't seem that way today. But, hey, everybody has some bad games every once in a while. Hopefully they'll get it figured out. We do have a few people missing on defense this week, so I think Ivan Pace, it shows when Ivan Pace is missing how much he affects the run. Now Kirk Cousins drops back, throws again, completion, this time to London. All right, I am streaming via YouTube because I am not in the area of the nation that has this live over the air. So I will be behind most people. Feel free to spoil anything for me. I'm cool with that. Hello, lovely and beautiful Miss Mary. Hey, Alan, welcome to the show. We have an absolute winner, and we got a flag on this play, whatever that is. Illegal motion on the Falcons. And there we go. Ha, false start. Pardon me. Same. 5 yards. Oh, wow. I got Jonas joining us early. This is cool. Give me a second there, Jonas. And I will bring you in. There you are. How's things over across the pond in Germany?
That second was good because I forgot to put my ring light on. Yeah, it's surprisingly not stressful.
Yeah, first 3 quarters were, but not this fourth one. And
yeah, I mean,
penalty on us.
Going into the fourth quarter, I fully expected this to be another nail biter, but man, that fumble on that kickoff return was really a breaking point.
Yes, it was. So, but that, yes, it was.
Looks like the Vikings also have some second teamers, some backup guys on defense right now.
Yes, well, they've had them all day, but yes.
Yeah, but Brian Asamoah hasn't been on defense today.
No, he hasn't. I don't think he has all season. SKOL there, Nick. Gotta love this game. I love the results, that's for sure. Without a doubt, I love the results. So far. All right. 2nd and 4. Cousins drops back, throws it to London. Or not London, but number 1. 7. Mooney. 1. All right. There we go.
Yeah, that's the reason I usually come on onto this broadcast like after the game concludes, because I'm about 1 play behind. And it's been the case like all season, and I just don't want to be spoiled. So yeah, but even in the Bears game, which I mean my instincts turned out to be right, I wasn't confident enough to jump on when they were up. I think it was 10 points.
10 points, yeah.
10 points. No, I think it was 11 because the Bears went for 2. So even that wasn't enough for me to get on here. But this time,
it is.
They have enough cushion. Like if the Vikings manage to blow this, there's no way. There's no way.
We're officially at the 2-minute warning, and that means the roll in. Welcome to Vikings First and SKOLs, live at the 2-minute warning. Next. R. Emmer says, turns out when you throw the ball to Addison and JJ, good things happen. Wild. Sorry, Josh Oliver. Hey, Oliver had a great catch and run there as well, so good for him.
I'm going to say something about that. I have a really frustrating situation for one of my fantasy football teams right now, and over the last 3 weeks, really, because my first two receivers are pretty much set that I'm gonna play, but the third one is always either Addison or Jaden Reed. And both of them have been pretty inconsistent this year. Both of them had like their absolute banger games and their stinkers. And the last 3 weeks, I had Jaden Reed up. He put up like 2 catches for 20 yards, while Addison had his great game against the Bears.
Right.
And Addison was on the bench. Then I switched them because of that breakout game, and I thought, well, maybe Addison is going to carry that momentum. No, he didn't. He scored like 7 points last week, and Jaden Reed had 2 touchdowns, and I was like, come on. And this week, I started Jaden Reed again. He puts up a goose egg against the Lions, and Addison scores 3 touchdowns. It's like, come on. At some point.
Jason, what do you mean muted? Should be able to hear us. We got volume. I've got the game muted. But, don't get me wrong, Josh Oliver. Don't love Josh Oliver with 6+ targets. LOL. All right, here we are. 2-minute warning. Handoff run to number 34, which is Mole something. Gets a yard. Yes, it always happens. Jonas. I mean, it did when I played fantasy football. I'd put a guy up and he gets nothing on the day. I'd bench him and he'd go off. I
mean, it's not too bad because that team still made the playoffs, which start next week. So, okay, it's fine. But I probably would have had at least a shot at the 2nd seed, which would have given me a first round bye in that league because it's a 16 playoff. So, yeah. But maybe if the rule basically is if I bench Addison, he's going to go off. I'm going to bench him for, like, if you can guarantee me that, I'm going to bench him for the rest of the season.
All right, it may be the luck charm. It's 3rd down and 3. And they Kirk throws for the end zone, and Jackson defends it. Good job. 4th down. Our Darda's first cushion win in a long time. Yeah, but it took to the 4th quarter to get there. But we'll take it. We'll take it. Jackson with the pass defense. Dr. Brodo, can you get a hell yeah? Hell yeah, baby. Hell yeah, baby.
I think I'm about like 50 seconds behind you at least because the Jackson pass defense just happened here.
Okay, well, he blew a 4th down to Pitts. It's a turnover on downs, Vikings ball. Hey, all the passes I saw to Pitts today are a good couple of them have failed. One hit him in the hands and he was too busy looking to run. Vikings now will go to 11-2, which is awesome. Did you think at the beginning of the season they'd be 11-2 after 13 games played in the week 14?
Not even close, man.
And we have the victory formation. I'm going to call it. There's still 40 seconds. Vikings win. Vikings win. The final score, once the clock runs out, will be 42-21. Duncan, yes.
Man, looking at that playoff picture, it's so. This division, it's so unusual to see 3 teams so good. And I think the crazy part about that is usually if you have good teams, they're going to be short on cash in the offseason. But this time, the NFC North is by far the best division in football, and all 4 teams are going to go into the offseason with more than $60 million projected in cap space. Even the Lions, even the Packers, they are sitting at, I think, 62, 63 millions. I think the Vikings are at close to 75, and the Bears are over 80. Man, this division can still load up. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. And so far, it is the top 3 teams in the division have won over 30 games and only lost 6, with 3 of those being to each other. So it's time to go and bring in my partner on Two Old Bloggers, Mr. Darren Campbell, who called it yesterday. Yes, wearing his Randy Moss jersey. Prayers up to Randy Moss that whatever he has gets better quick. So what'd you think, buddy?
Neglected to really mention that yesterday in the show until the very end, so I wanted to wear his jersey after a successful game today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Andrew, Sam Darnold's going to break all Minnesota QB records, and you all want JJ. Well, it's going to be because Sam's going to price himself out of Minnesota. But, hey, that's cool. Speaking of Sam Darnold, he went 22 for 28, 347 yards, 5 touchdown passes, and a QBR, or a rating of 157.9. I wonder why it dropped from the max. It's only dropped from the max by about 1 point. But that makes him, if I remember reading correctly, tied or beat the most 100-plus rating QBs in Vikings history. The only ones in a single season. The only ones that supposedly had more, I believe, were Fran, which blows my mind of how the old guys could have that rating, and Tommy Kramer.
Well, I think he beat he passed Culpepper and Favre for most of the season today, and I think with this one he is still on track to beat most in a season. I think he had to go over 100 pretty much in every game from now until the end to beat it, but he started with that one today. And old Sam, he's like, I love it here. I'm going to make this off-season decision for you, the Vikings front office, as difficult as possibly can be. Yeah. Because I don't want to leave.
Hey, he's a former third pick in the NFL draft of a first round, and suddenly he's 27, gets himself hooked up with a coach that knows how to bring the most out of a quarterback, and bada boom, bada bing, he's blooming.
He is, and this, not the first half so much, because there were some protection issues again with the offensive line and picking up and communication and recognition. Blake Brandel will not like this film, I think, when he looks at it tomorrow and Monday, tomorrow is Monday. But this is the way the offense, we expected it would look throughout the season, where in the second half anyway, where we're just driving down the field time after time after time, TD after TD after TD, because teams can't cover Hawkinson, Addison, and Jefferson all at the same time and keep them down. And that last drive, although Arizona helped us quite a bit, as they did all game with penalties and that sort of thing, that is how you close out a game.
Yes, it is. It is indeed.
And some tough running. And I got to say, the Falcons defense early on in that drive, they looked like they kind of gave up on the tackling, like they were. But anyway, we'll take it.
Yep. And John's saying Sam had 11 TDs, 0 interceptions in the last 4 games. And we've won 6 in a row. Yeah, buddy. So
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I do. Riley mentioned thumbs down or stock down the Forest's first half defense. I would say stock down for the Forest defense pretty much the last 2 games, and the running, the rushing yards that we are giving up, in particular, the last 2 games is pretty concerning for me. And they've got to find a way to get this sorted out. I know you don't have pace. I know Gilmore wasn't in there, although he's not really a big deal on the run defense anyway. And you didn't have, there's somebody else I'm forgetting. Jones was out today, but anyway, this is not a good sign when you're facing the Packers coming up, who are running the ball really, really well and committed to that, and the Lions in your last game. And we know that they can run the ball like nobody's business. And then in the playoffs, the Eagles, if you face another high, very good offense that leans on the run a lot. So I don't know where this is going. The defense seems to be, to me, is not playing its best ball late in the season, which you don't want to see. Fortunately, the offense, outside of pass protection issues, is playing better than it, at least in stretches of the game, has been dominant. And maybe that'll even itself out. I don't know.
And pass protection today was not exactly optimum, to say the least. I think I saw just about everybody give up pressures or sacks, other than I didn't see one come off the left tackle side.
No, I think Robinson was pretty clean. But again, the sacks we're going to have to live with a little bit, because a couple of those sacks, again, Darnold's holding the ball a long time because they're hunting for those long, big, explosive plays. And when you look at how the game went and how many deep shots we got and scored off of, I think you can live with that, because I think we were the better for it offensively by hunting the explosive plays like we have been all year. But a few of them, I think, O'Neal got beat badly when they rushed 3 in the first quarter. You almost never see that. So that's kind of an anomaly, but did seem like the interior again was getting pushed back into Darnold's lap on a consistent basis. And that's just something that's been a problem since, we can't remember when it hasn't been a problem with the Vikings offensive line.
Yep. And Too Evil says Saints Giants really close. Yeah, Too Evil, I've got it up on my screen. You are correct. Giants just got another first down. They trail the Saints 14-11, by the way. And it is odd that our pass protection has been weak. So I wish it was better.
And haven't really had a good pass rush the past couple of games either. I don't know whether we're running similar kind of stunts, blitzes that teams are just prepared for. Seems like we're trying to loop guys from the outside into the middle, and the offensive line has got that covered up for the most part.
Yeah, but he got tons of pressures today and balls knocked down and stuff like that. So it's not like it was at the beginning of the season, but defense did get some pressure on him. At least I thought so.
I don't think it was consistent or impactful enough for the most part.
I think I would agree on the pass rush. I don't really agree on the pass protection, at least if you look at the season. Like it's been rough today. I think this was not a good pass blocking day for the Vikings. But looking at the season, this is still, I think, a pretty good pass blocking unit. They are in most metrics, despite the fact that it's really tough on them because they hold the ball very long. In most metrics, they are still top 10 in pass protection. So I think the Vikings are so used to just calling the interior a problem, which I don't think it's that much this year. It's still worse than the tackles, obviously. So it gets noticed, but I think it's not great, but I think it's fine. And if your interior is fine and your tackles are great, this is a good offensive line.
And it is, and per the rankings, it just hurts my heart as an offensive line lover that the talent across the board in the NFL is at a low point, I believe. And if we could have somebody big, strong, difference maker, in the interior, it would help dramatically. But
I would say on the interior, yeah, I would probably agree that there is some need of more talent. I think over the last few years, there was a big influx of offensive tackle talent. I think that's way better than it used to be like 5 or 10 years ago, because there were a lot of really good offensive tackles that got drafted. I mean, 2 of them are playing for the Vikings right now. At least, I mean, one of them is injured, but still, the Vikings took advantage of that talent influx. And like you said, the fact that Brian O'Neill got beat cleanly off the edge today, one-on-one, that's something that you basically never see. So, yeah, I'm not sure that offensive line talent overall is down. Interior, yes. Tackles, no, not really.
No, well, league-wise, I would say it is. But, yes, tackles are getting better. Tyler, are you in the middle of writing a story?
No, I'm in the middle of trying to get Odie to stop barking at a laundry basket, of all things. But that's Odie for you.
Well, you were looking down. I was like you're looking at your keyboard or something.
I was texting my wife because I need her to get the mashed potatoes started for when, because they take like an hour, to boil. So I peeled them. She just needs to, cut them up. So, man, what a game. I'm going to continue to be extremely irresponsible about Sam Darnold. Look, the Vikings are probably still going to move on from him, and they probably should still move on from him because they have JJ McCarthy in the building. But man, he is making the decision a lot more difficult for the Vikings every single week. Ever since the game against the Jaguars, where he threw the 3 picks and arguably could have been 5, I still argue that his process in that game was relatively fine. He just missed throws. And you can't do either of them. You can't have bad process or just missed throws. He's really cleaned it up. What does he have since that game? I think 11 touchdowns and no interceptions. But I think he might have been charged with 1 or 2 fumbles during that time. Just bonkers good football. And there are a lot of things that I'm worried about coming out of this game. The lack of interior presence and pass rush really manifested in a poor way. That Falcons offensive line came to play. It was almost as if Kirk Cousins guaranteed them each $1 million if they won this game. Like, they were playing with a major chip on their shoulders. And I tip my hat to them because they bullied the Vikings pass rush the entire game. It almost never got home. The blitzes were struggling. The stunts weren't getting there. They were great.
Sack.
Yeah, and I tip my hat to them because they played really well against a really, really good defense. And one of the big things going into the game that you just could not do was allow Kirk Cousins time to throw the ball down the field. And that was the one thing that they did, and that was why early on in the game, Kirk Cousins was able to make some of these plays. Now, the plays that he made were still relatively contested, like that you had the simultaneous possession with Drake London, even the deep ball to Darnell Mooney, Shaq Griffin was close. Like, they still had to make really good plays, but the opportunities were there because the offensive line was really good. The only good defensive lineman on the day, from my perspective, was Jalen Redmond, and he wasn't even consistent. But he had 2 tackles for loss, 2 passes defended, and he was consistently getting in there, trying to make plays with penetration. He's earned regular playing time, and I think that's a really, really impressive find. And another hat in the feather of this front office staff, because while the drafting hasn't really been up to par, everything else has been there. The free agent additions, the signing of like back end of the roster talent has been phenomenal. Like this is how you build a championship football team. You have to have the guys on the back end. And they are arguably more important pieces than the guys on the front end, because almost everybody that's good has stars. How are the other guys, the unsung players? And the Vikings are great in that department. Jamin Davis got a sack today. He was the only guy to get a sack because he was the guy blitzing in the Ivan Pace role, which is exactly what they brought him in to do, which is the one thing he's really, really good at, because he's very strong and physical. And even if he gets pushed off his spot, he can fight through it. And that was just on the defense side of the football. Offensively, Sam Darnold. What a game. He came out, and it was almost like he had a chip on his shoulder, too. I'm playing against the guy that they dumped to sign me, and he put up a banner day. Jordan Addison, phenomenal game. Justin Jefferson, that first touchdown might have been one of the better routes he's run all year, because it's just little things with him. He does so many little things to absolute perfection to get open and create little bits of space, because what we consider wide open is different than what is wide open in the NFL. Like he had like half a step on a defender with an inside release. That spot right there is wide open. Like you have to hit that. Darnold hit it, touchdown. The deep ball to Jordan Addison, where Addison had to adjust, great stuff. Like, yeah, you don't want the ball to go short like that, but he saw it, he adjusted, tracked it really well. Just so many good things across the board. And this team is proving that they're not fluky. They whipped ass on a Falcons team. They took advantage of all three turnovers. I think 21 points.
It took them to the fourth quarter to do it, though. It was close.
Yeah, it was close, but when they needed to put the foot on the gas and
they did
and choke them out, they did. And they did so convincingly. The Falcons were kind of getting some fluky stuff themselves, but a lot of it just has to do with how good that offensive line played. Kirk Cousins was a time bomb waiting to happen, and it went off. Kudos to I think the only thing that was really good was that Falcons offensive line, and they took advantage of Vikings defensive mistakes. The Tyler Algier run that went for like 20 yards is because Josh Metellus decided to boom instead of try to wrap up for a tackle, because they had him in the hole. They had him. But that boom pushed Algier back just a little bit, and he broke it outside and got a huge gain. And that was the beginning of that 5-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. Like, you have to be smarter than that. And I think the Vikings will learn quite a bit from this game. But my goodness, they were great. This was a game that they needed, and they showed up. They put the foot on the gas, and they didn't stop. And it was great to see that from a team who really hadn't done that much all year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved seeing in the final drive, again, Carter helped with the face mask, and there was, I think, a neutral zone infraction, too, that helped us on that 98-yard drive. But was it third or second down? I don't know. The bootleg that they were trying to hit Ham on, we've seen many games this season in the past where the Vikings just handed off there and looked to drain some clock. I think KLC is like, nope, we're not going to do that today. We're going to try to push this envelope and put the dagger drive in them. And they got the boot, and Ham wasn't really open. But again, Darnold makes a great play, throwing against his body, but he can see that Oliver's wide open, gets it to him, big gain, boom. Like you're down inside the 20 of the Falcons. And yeah, just those are the kind of plays that I just love talking about how great Darnold played, but when you see some of these replays in that game on some of those throws for the completions he's made, he is just fitting the ball in on like you can just see the defender has like half an inch from tipping that ball, and he's just layering it in there, and it's just the guy has been playing unbelievable the past 3-4 games with those kind of throws consistently.
He has. It's a good thing.
I think one thing that really wasn't a thing at the start of the season, but I think it's getting into this conversation right now because the Darnold contract is going to be more expensive than people are talking about right now. Like, I think if he continues to play like that, and if he continues to have stats like that, he's going to be. You're not talking about $30 or even $40 million. He's going to get top 5 money, and I think that's a real possibility right now. So when we talked about this earlier, tag and trade wasn't really an option, because if you tag him, you're gonna give him top 5 money, and people weren't comfortable with that, and you probably don't get much from that. If Darnold continues to play like that, the Vikings can tag him and then decide what they want to do. Because I think with stats like that, they actually can get a big haul of assets for Sam Darnold on a franchise tag. Like, that's a real possibility right now. Even if you are still committed to JJ McCarthy, a franchise tag is a real possibility right now. Because I think now he is at a spot where you can actually get something for him and get a lot for him when he's on a franchise tag deal.
Well, the highest level tag will have him come in at just under $42 million.
Well, that's not the highest level tag. That's the standard franchise tag. The higher level tag is going to come in slightly above that. That would be the exclusive tag where nobody can talk to him. That's the one that Dak Prescott got. That increases by, I think, 20%. So that would put the tag at just over $50 million. Now, I think Jonas brought up a really interesting point, and it's something that was talked about a lot with T. Higgins last year. Do you tag so you can trade? I think because of what this quarterback class is, that's a really good and interesting idea, because there will be teams that are fighting for Sam Darnold services. Maybe you can get a first from somebody because there's nothing in this draft class. Now,
and not only this draft class, but free agency as well. Free agency is completely dry at QB.
Yeah. I'm going to write about that today, because that's a fascinating idea, Jonas. Thank you very much. It's something we got to talk about. Like, do the Vikings franchise tag him and take that risk? They have the cap space to absorb it, and Sam Darnold played so well this year that giving JJ McCarthy another year to sit and learn. Like, look, you want to take advantage of the rookie contract, but it's also really hard to let a great quarterback out the door when you have him in the building already. And considering that Darnold's 27, he's never been in a good situation really as a starter before this. Now you've given him that, and look at what he's giving you. Like this kind of performance is something an MVP would give you. I'm not saying Darnold is MVP, but this is what you expect from a quarterback who would contend for MVP. This is what you expect from Josh Allen. This is what you expect from Patrick Mahomes, and he's giving you that. He's giving you consistency now. Ever since that Jags game, it's been a consistent trend. 4 games in a row that Sam Darnold has played good to great, mistake-free football. How can you ask for anything better than that? It's going to be really hard to say no. So the franchise tag, if you don't get a trade worked out, you know what? You can keep him. And you can keep him for a year. And other than salary cap space and potentially, quote-unquote, wasting, and I use that air quotes there because, look, it's not a waste when you have a guy who's still going to continue to learn and grow and develop a year of that rookie contract. When you have a guy who's playing like this, it's a very convoluted, complicated question and answer that does not have the clear-cut response. Daniel Jones will get signed by somebody. Like Jonas said, the quarterback market is extremely dry. He may get a chance to start somewhere next year. That's a realistic outcome with where we're at with the offseason quarterback carousel.
Well, we got 2 in the draft that show promise.
Maybe.
Maybe. Like I said, show promise. And for free agency, you have Darnold and you have Jones.
What, you don't think Quinn Ewers is legit?
Oh my gosh. Quinn Ewers, Darren, my 10-year-old cousin has a stronger arm than Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers' arm strength is baloney. It's so bad. If he had an average arm strength, then maybe we could talk about Quinn Ewers being a viable NFL starter. He doesn't even have average arm strength. It's really, really bad. It's really bad. And if he had average arm strength, I think Texas wins yesterday. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't.
Bob asked, did we make a mistake at kicker?
No. Don't overthink one kick that hit the upright. That ball was kicked dead straight.
Yeah.
Like he was on the left hash and he hit
about yay wide. Takes talent.
Mm-hmm. Like, look, kickers are going to miss kicks. He's 14 of 17 of field goals as a rookie. I think you take that and you're comfortable with it. That's still over 80%. Mm-hmm. Like Parker Romo was really good. And the fact that you identified him as a kicker, I think is great. But
and he's also
Reichard was playing so well before he got hurt that don't say no to that. Like you have a good kicker problem. That rules. Like, Parker's going to have success somewhere else.
Let's not forget that 2 of Reichard's misses was when he was hurt. Yes. Like he was hurt in that game. So this was the first time he missed when he was healthy.
Mm-hmm. Agreed, Jonas. I don't even count the 2 that he missed. I know you count them, but I feel like you said that the quad injury clearly impacted both of those kicks. I don't think he misses those 2 if he's healthy. And today he just missed one. Kickers miss a field goal occasionally. And we didn't make the wrong decision.
Tim Parker says this was the most satisfying Vikings game of this season. Was it because we won by 3 touchdowns, or was it because who we beat?
Yes. I think it was, and I think I said it earlier, I don't want to speak for Jim here because I think everybody's going to have a different viewpoint on what the most satisfying win is. My guess as far as what Jim is meaning is they put the foot on the gas, the foot on the throat, and they stomped them out. They won convincingly at the end, and they put the game away and did not let them come back. I think, like, to me, that was the most satisfying aspect. Game? The Texans, they had that game under control from the get-go. Mm-hmm. That game was they were putting in scrubs at the very end, and the Vikings did the same thing here, which I thought was great. Get young players. They got Dwight McLaughlin playing time. They got Brian Asamoah playing time. They were getting these guys snaps, which is huge when it comes to a long-term perspective. Getting them real snaps
at the end of the game.
Yeah, he had that humongous brace on his elbow because he missed last week with that injury. I actually think he missed 2 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. But putting the foot on the throat at the end, to me, I would call the Vikings win over the Packers more satisfying because you beat their ass so bad in the first half, and then you held really strong in the third quarter, and then you got that final touchdown to put the nail in the coffin at the end. To me, that one was more satisfying. Sorry, it wasn't it was a field goal, not a touchdown.
Yeah.
But you went up by 2 scores, but you put that nail in the coffin by making that final drive and making sure that after the first quarter, Jordan Love never had a chance to tie or take the lead. To me, I think that was there were still frustrating moments for sure, but that was really satisfying to be able to see that. So I think you're going to have different opinions on that, but there's rules no matter what way you look at it.
Well,
they beat Kirk Cousins.
Jose has the comment of the day. You like that? Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to look at right now, because I saw it in the comments already. Somebody asked if this was a clincher. Not yet, but it can be in a couple of hours, because right now the Seahawks play the Cardinals and the Bills play the Rams. If the Bills beat the Rams, if the Seahawks beat the Cardinals, it's ball game. The Vikings are in the playoffs. The Seahawks just intercepted Kyler Murray for the second time. They are up 10-7, so obviously it's still up in the air, but they got a good start. The Rams got on their opening drive. Bills hadn't had the ball yet, so not much to say there, but keep an eye on that. If those games go the way the Vikings needed it, they are in.
Cool. Now, I want to hit some highlights. We had Aaron Jones with 13 carries today for 73 yards. Some of those were tough yards. We had Cam Akers stepping up at the end, 5 for 37. We have on the passing side, Jordan Addison with the leading receiver with 8 catches for 133 yards, 16.6 average, and 3 touchdowns. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson, who had 7 targets for 132 yards, 18.9 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns, followed by TJ Hawkinson with 4 for 45. Do you think that Justin Jefferson had his quote breakout game, or that game over 100 that he's been missing for a while? What do you think of Justin Jefferson's performance today? In other words,
good, very good, great, very great. Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the National Football League. You could argue he's the best receiver in NFL history, or at least start beginning to have a conversation about, is he on that trajectory? It is a long way up to get to the level of Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, who are, in my opinion, unquestionably 1 and 2, no matter how you sort them out. Look, Jefferson's great. And what's really amazing to me about him, and I don't mean this in a negative way because he's just so good at everything. What's his dominant trait? Is there one thing about Justin Jefferson that stands out that he's just so incredibly good at? Or is he just really good at everything that he doesn't need any dominant trait? Like A.J. Brown is just a physical monster. Randy Moss was so explosive down the field and so great at tracking the ball and skying up for it. But Justin Jefferson's just really good at everything. There's not one thing to me that stands out that's so much better above the rest that he can just go rely on. He's just great. And I think that separates him from other people, because even though others have a dominant trait, he doesn't have to go rely on something. He can just do everything at such a high level that none of it matters, that he's just not the best at this one thing, or so great at this that he can just be like, oh, just throw it up to me, I'm just going to go sky and get it. Because that was the Randy Moss theory. That's why Mike Tice talked about the Randy ratio.
Mm-hmm. Matt Bowen thinks his dominant trait is contested catches. He was ranked number 1 by ESPN this week in their list of 102 things that players do the best in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But
now I think you can make an argument that you can be best in the league at something.
Not even close to being shit at anything that he does.
Tying his shoe, he's number 2. Hey.
I think you can make an argument too, Darren, that he can be the best in the league at something, but it's not like this overwhelmingly dominant trait. And no. I think that's where my brain is at with how I'm trying to present this discussion, because I don't think there's one thing where he's just so incredibly dominant at. He's just Justin Jefferson. He's just absolutely great.
Mm-hmm. Chris Carter in his hands and body positioning was just great.
Yeah, and I'm sure he focused on that because he knew that was his out, right? That was his superpower. Like Tyler says, Justin Jefferson doesn't need a superpower because he's super
good.
He is the superpower.
Yeah.
But he did pass 7,000 yards, first wide receiver in history to do that in 5 years, in his first 5 years in the league. That's amazing. He's been, and we know he hasn't had that many 100-plus yard games this season.
Yeah, but he's been, and that's a function of how defenses are playing him. But pretty much every game, it's like good or depending on the coverage or how teams are approaching it, he's still getting 80, 90 per game, almost every game, even with the amount of attention that he's paid. And again, that just shows when you're that good, there's really no way to eliminate you unless the Vikings choose to eliminate him. And sometimes I wonder about that when, you don't target the guy for a whole first half almost, and he's your best player. But it all works out.
Yes, it does. I'm trying to look No, they haven't updated that on ESPN yet.
I mean, if he's eliminated by the thing that the Bears did, just put 3 defenders on him and let everybody run 3, go do that. I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. And that may be the answer to a lot of teams, but it's a pick your poison. How are you going to lose to this offense, especially when Sam Darnold is throwing so well?
Mm-hmm. And I think what we've it's been good to see, at least in my view, the past 2 or 3 games since the Chicago game, is that the Jacksonville game, we're like, man, they're forcing it into JJ there when there's other guys that are open. Well, Addison, they're not, so don't seem to be forcing it into Jefferson as much right now, and going to Addison, and he's had a couple of humongous games in the past 3 because Darnold is not locked in on Jefferson at this point, and going to guys that are open, and there's a lot of guys open.
Mm-hmm. That's just it. And now that we got Hawkinson back, Hawkinson's productive. Josh Oliver was productive before that. He's back. What did he finish with today, by the way?
He just had 1 catch, I believe,
1
today.
for 26. Yeah.
But next game, that could flip a little bit, depending on how things go.
Barber says this game was for TYA. I bet Curtis was up there screwing with Kirk Cousins all day. Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't doubt it.
Not doubt it. All right. Well, lads, we got another one. It's 11-2. Jonas, have you got anything on your schedule over in Germany this week?
We'll see. I mean, I'm probably I probably have a chance to hop on our podcast for the next game preview, but we'll have to see about that. It always depends on the day we're recording, because there are just certain days where I can make it. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Just a little live update, because I already did that earlier. The Bills have marched down on the Rams. They are currently on 3rd and goal at the Rams' 1-yard line. So they might tie the game soon. And the Seahawks are now up 10 points after the second Kyler Murray interception. They're up 17-7. So there's a legit chance that the Vikings might actually clinch the playoffs today, and the Bills just scored the touchdown, finishing off their opening drive. So Rams and Bills trade touchdowns on their opening drives, and the Seahawks are in a very good spot against the Cardinals right now.
Woohoo. Now, Jim Parker says Addison's a legit wide receiver 1. He's going into his final year next year, I believe.
No.
Addison?
No. He's a second season.
Yeah.
This is his second season? Yeah, I guess it is.
He's got up to 3 more years of team control. The Vikings won't be able to actually exercise the 5th-year option until after 2025. But yeah, he's not going anywhere. And you know what? He's tangible proof why the Vikings need to surround Justin Jefferson with great playmakers. Like,
well, I'm
you
just
got to
thinking
do it.
Trade bait.
Trade? Why?
Well, for draft picks.
No.
Why?
Well, I just to get draft picks. He costs just easily over a 1 plus.
I get the idea.
Maybe in 3 years.
If he gets to the end of his rookie contract, maybe. If you draft a successor, but not yet. Definitely not yet.
But speaking of trades, Big Rail and Dad's talking about KOC will end up on a different team. Obviously,
not good.
For that to happen, it would have to be a ginormous trade.
I think the Vikings are going to extend both Kwesi and O'Connell long term this offseason. I think that's pretty obvious at that point. You cannot let either of them walk out the door right now.
Mm-hmm.
No, like this year was going to be the big, I think, decision point for the Wolves on like the extension for KOC and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Like, how did this season go with the decisions they made with Kirk and bringing in Darnold? And at 11-2, no matter how it goes from here on in, there's no way that KOC and Kwesi are not getting extensions after this season. Just can't see it happening. Can't see them not extending them.
Right. Daniel says KOC gets McVay money. I don't know how much, McKay money. I don't know how much he makes.
I think he's making over 10.
Recap.
10, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think the number I heard from somebody last week was that O'Connell was making around 5 to 6, which, I mean, makes sense. He's a first-time head coach. Zimmer had such a track record that his final deal, I think, was like for $9 or $10 million a year, which, okay, that makes sense. You're in like year 8. You've proven yourself. Kevin O'Connell hadn't proven himself at all, which completely fair because he had never coached a game in the NFL as a head coach. So now he's probably going to get like that 11, 12, $13 million a year money, which, I mean, he's earned it.
Yeah. And that comes out of Wolf's pocket.
And like you said, no salary cap for coaching staffs.
Chris is asking how let's see how KOC does calling plays against elite teams. Well, of course, it's going to be more difficult when you're playing the Lions or the Eagles. And I think there's a lot of tough teams, which is why, if we can clinch a playoff spot today, that's fantastic. But the Vikings need to do much more than that. They need to win the division and hopefully keep on winning and get that number 1 seed, because I just don't want to see them facing a really good team in their first playoff game, even if it's at home. And Washington has been frisky this year at times. We know the Packers are playing better and better all the time, it seems. So there's some tough teams in the wild card action, including us. Just going to be a tough slog all the way around. And I'd rather not face somebody like the Eagles right away.
No, most likely it's whoever the AFC South is.
Yes.
But unless we get that first round bye and win the division.
You got to keep winning. Like, the Packers are 2 behind us, but we got Seattle next week on the road, and Seattle's fighting for a divisional playoff. They're fighting for a divisional crown right now, and their defense is looking pretty tough the past few games. That is going to be a tough road game in a couple of weeks. And so, yeah. And with the way Detroit and Philly keep on winning, it's tough. It makes a lot of pressure on the teams below them to keep on winning and keep pace.
Absolutely.
And a lot of years, 11-2, you'd be like, you're the favorite to get the number 1 seed. Not this year.
Well, you got 2 teams at 11-2, 1 at 12-1.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Eagles nearly lost to the Panthers today. Xavier Legette was this close to catching the game-winning touchdown pass inside of a minute left to go. Real close.
That won't get brought up by the media. They'll just be like, oh, the Vikings were 3/4 were neck and neck with the Falcons, and they're frauds.
Then they put boots to asses.
Yeah.
One thing the last thing I want to mention, and I already tweeted it, that big rollout touchdown to Justin Jefferson where Darnold escapes the pocket. I think one really underrated aspect of that play was Garrett Bradbury, who was heading out to be the lead blocker for Darnold if he decides to tuck and run it. And then he was looking at the stakes and was like, oh, well, maybe I'm going to give him one more second to throw it. And he stayed on the line. He stayed on the line to not go downfield because that probably would have erased the play. So really good awareness by him at that point. And I think a lot of linemen who just would have ran to be the lead blocker and be downfield and erase
heck,
that.
he
And
would
I
have
think
a couple years ago.
That's a really good awareness play by Garrett Bradbury.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Jonas, did you tweet that bilingual? German and English?
If I'm tweeting about English, if I'm tweeting about football, I usually tweet in English.
Gotcha.
So no.
So it's if I'm talking about football, I usually tweet in English and answer in German if somebody comments in German. Like I'm gonna answer in the language the guys are writing. So unless it's in any other language besides English and German, because I can't speak anything else. But yeah, I'm doing it that way. On other topics, it depends on the topic.
Gotcha. Tyler, what have you got coming up?
Well, I'm going to be doing a lot more film stuff, trying to focus on like the intricacies of why things are happening for the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm going to write about what Jonas talked about earlier, Vikings and Sam Darnold and a franchise tag and why that could make a lot of sense. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff to talk about this week here on the Real Forno Show. Just get excited. This team is 11-2. Their underlying metrics look really good. The normal metrics look really good. There's not a single piece of this team that's fraudulent. There just isn't. This is a damn good football team.
Yep.
Damn good football team.
Now, I got a question real quick. What were we doing this time last year?
Whining about how Josh Dobbs threw 4 interceptions against the Bears.
And we were looking at the draft. I assume you're doing your homework on that, and we'll get that after.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say now that the regular season is over, you have a really good resume for these teams that show, hey, you've played all your games. Now I can like get to the film and give like a real in-depth analysis because, hey, there's maybe one game left. And for some teams, there's going to be 3 or 4 because of the playoff. But most teams, it's just going to be 1. Mm-hmm. And I can really start to go to work at that point. Some of these top prospects just might not play in bowl games. Like your Mason Grahams of Michigan, Caleb Johnson at Iowa. They may just skip. And they have every right to skip because it's pretty much meaningless for their draft stock. And quite frankly, it's not worth getting hurt.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the viewers know, just because we're still talking Vikings because they are successful this season doesn't mean Tyler stopped on his college coverage and his draft stuff.
Just his picture stopped moving.
Yeah, unlike his camera, which is frozen. But tomorrow night, catch us on the Real Forno Show at 6:00. Where we'll look into this game more in depth. And then Darren, we have 2 old bloggers at the end of the week. And believe it or not, it's not going to be, quote, the pregame. That'll be the following Monday because we have a Monday nighter against the Bears. And it'll be the winter whiteout game where we get to see those sweet new unis.
Is there any chance ABC would flex that game out? Like, don't they have that option?
They had the option, but it's within the time period. No.
So okay, right. Yeah. I was wondering about that. Yeah. But yeah, no, we 2 old bloggers next Saturday, I think. We wouldn't go Sunday. Yeah, I think we'll kind of dig into maybe the defensive side of things for the Vikings and what's going on with the pass rush and stopping the run the past couple of games. Anomaly or what was the old Chris Berman saying? One game's one game is a fluke, 2 is something else, and 3 is a trend. Or
So
I think that's something we'll want to dig into.
Could be. Well, gentlemen, what do we say?
Skol Vikings.
Skol Vikings, baby. 11-2.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And of course, Skol Vikings. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And share this episode with your friends and even your enemies. We'd love it. Thanks for watching Vikings First and Skol. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Skol.